They think intelligence, expertise. Like, how much am I willing to give up? Stand commitment and are not committed to the struggle. Acquiescing to the struggle, they're committed.
So it's Sunday, so why not a little Sunday gospel? So I was at an event last night where I myself spoke along with the legendary Dr. Leonard Jeffries. So there was a guy there with black skin. That's how I have to refer to the Negropean these days. Yes, he had black skin, and he posed a question. He said, what are we talking about here? Are we teaching love or are we teaching hate? Then a young sister followed that question up with one of her own. Here's the thing, black love always sounds like hate to those who don't practice black love. Black empowerment always sounds like hate to those who don't practice black empowerment. Black group economics always sounds like hate to those who have no sense of group economics. It should also be duly noted that when that Negropean entered the room, he went right over to the cash register to shake hands with the two Europeans. I rest my case. I don't hate. I just hate niggas that sell us out.
Good morning, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that quick intro by Brother Yarima Karama. I love his contributions and his down-to-earth approach in talking about some of the things we tend to avoid discussing and talking about because it makes people uncomfortable. And I'm going to kind of ride the wave of that and talking about what I want to talk about as far as the responses to the fact that Kamala Harris has bowed out of the presidential, her bid for the White House, the presidential race. Before I do, I want to, first of all, thank everybody for the well wishes. Second of all, thank everyone who has supported the work that we're doing here. And finally, to encourage you guys to continue to support what we're doing. There's always going to be a paragraph at the top of the description box that explains and instructs you on how you can give to support the work that we're doing here at the Odyssey Project, whether it's the Black Voice show, which will be airing here moving forward. I'll give you more information on that. We're going to do a weekly show. We used to do two days a week. And we're going to talk about whether we're going to do that again or we're going to go to one day. But I'm thinking a minimum of one day a week. We're going to have a scheduled show, The Black Voice, which will be about an hour and a half, 2 hours long. And we're going to address issues, and it'll be with my former co-host, my best friend, former mentee. Well, I guess I'm still mentoring the kid. He's 38 years old. This is my dude, man. He started out, he came to me, Michael Jordan came to me and asked me to be an influence in his life. And along the way, he just became a friend, a person, one of a couple that I could depend on no matter where I'm at and what I'm going through. Somebody I love deeply. We share a very strong bond and love for our families and the Black community. And so he and I'll be back at it. He rolled with me the first time around, and he'll be back. It was initially a radio show. We're gonna do radio and live stream this time around. Okay, so that's that. But support the work we do. We really need your help, whether it's that, whether it's Black Men Lead, the Rite of Passage program for young Black males 4 to 30, whether it's Restoring Ghettos Forgotten Daughters, the work that Marion and I are doing with young Black girls and young women, whether it's the Music is Life program, we need your support. So now that we have that out of the way, let's talk. There's so much I've got to talk to you guys about. It's crazy. That it's too much to schedule on live stream, so a lot of it's going to be pre-recorded, but the point will be made nonetheless. Um, I'm not shocked at all. Anybody that has truly done their work and paid attention to what has happened to the Cory Bookers and the Kamala Harrises and the the presidential hopefuls that thought solely being black and connected themselves to certain black issues and stories would be sufficient enough to carry them in black communities and in inner city communities and in places where people have lived consistently at or below the poverty line. They learned quickly that wasn't it. They tried to ride the pushes of the old black standard media, the Roland Martins and the likes, and they pushed it hard. The Sean Kings pushed it hard, and Kamala Harris, and I think Sean King's was Bernie Sanders, and but Roland, Kamala Harris, and nobody was paying attention to the response and how blacks are no longer satisfied with solely rolling with skin folk that aren't kinfolk. And we learned a long time ago that all skin folk ain't kin folk. And what we're learning here is with the rise of new black media, unapologetic black media, whether you like who you like is a preference. But what you want are people that are putting the truth out there, people who are speaking based off of factual events and pulling receipts, whether it's the Black Voice coming from me and the Odyssey Project coming from me, whether it's Tariq Nasheed, whether it's Dr. Boyce Watkins, whether it's Umar Johnson, whether it's the Black Authority with Jason Black, whether it's Professor Black Truth, Yurima Karama. I mean, there's so many people out there that are using their platform and their exposure to speak truth to power. Some of us are doing it with targets on our backs. They're constantly coming after us, but we have made a commitment to speak it. And what happened is that Kamala Harris, like Cory Booker, could not overcome it. You can't overcome your past because we're not going to let it just slide by. We're not going to let you shoot a couple of rhetorical responses to these issues. There's a reason that Kamala Harris polled fourth in her own state, the state where her political career began, is because of her handling of black people and poor people in that state as a district attorney and then as the state's attorney general. It's a reason. And why I'm here isn't the fact that she bailed out. It's how many people I see that are empathizing and sympathizing with her and thinking that she was the answer. They weren't ready. I've seen responses. They weren't ready for her. Your time is going to come. Keep your head up. And my thing is, I don't have time to send ill wishes towards anyone. I don't like that type of energy in me. But I do have time and responsibility to speak truth to power and to send energy to empower those who I love and I care for, starting with my family and then with my people. And so that's where my energy goes. So I'm going to speak truth to power, not because I have hatred for her, because of the dangers she represents for my people. And the receipts are there. She was horrible in her approach to the black plight in her state of California before she ever became a senator in the United States. She was horrible when it came to mass incarceration. She was horrible in her approach towards uh, being fair and just in dealing with our people. She was horrible when it came to her approach towards the legalization of marijuana. She was horrible. There are statements of her saying that nonviolent offenders that should be released, she doesn't want to release them because that would be releasing free labor. That came out of her mouth. That her concern was the companies that were benefiting from the free labor of those who were incarcerated. Those are the people that she's concerned about, not the people who were incarcerated for the very thing white men are becoming wealthy with now across the country, and that is the manufacturing and distribution of marijuana. Oh, My thing is we've got to do a better job of educating ourselves. We've got to do a better job of getting out of the idea that a black face in a high place represents blackness. We've got to stop living our lives vicariously through the positioning of celebrities and politicians and the wealthy, thinking that they represent blackness. Most of them don't. Most of them have bought into a system that is by nature diametrically opposed to the empowerment of those who are disempowered at the moment. You have to understand something. And while my family eats off of capitalism, I understand how this works. See, capitalism operates as what's known as a zero sum system. What's a zero sum system? See, a zero sum system means for somebody to eat, somebody starves. Now, I'm being extreme on these ends, but this is how it works. For somebody to win, somebody has to lose. If I go on the stock market, for instance, and I say, okay, this company's taking a hit. It's taking $75 a share hit, but I'm predicting that in 2 years, that's going to recover. So I'm going to buy all of this at what I see as a discount. And for people who play the stock market well, they understand that okay, the stocks are now at a discounted price. They're on sale. Now, the people who own them, if they aren't aware of how this works and they aren't experienced and seasoned and stable and not fearful, they're probably thinking it's time to get out and sell. That's how I'm going to win. I'm going to buy from somebody who panics. Now, I tell people all the time when you're dealing with the stock market, you haven't truly experienced a loss until you sell. If you own stocks and the price starts dropping, on paper, that's gone until it recovers, but you haven't sold it yet, so you haven't experienced the loss. You still have the same amount of money in, you just lost value in what you've invested in, but as long as you hold it, you still have the opportunity to recover. When you sell, you realize your loss. Okay, but what happens is people panic sell to investors who are crisis investors, people who invest when the stock market is in crisis and dropping and prices are dropping because they know it automatically and always recovers. Well, that's a zero sum. They won, the people they bought from lost. When you sit up and you go in and you have a corporation and you go in and you start a company and you bring people in and you decide for the sake of profit, I'm going over and I'm going to put my company over here because I can get cheaper labor. Company wins, the place where you put your company, they win because they have jobs, but the place where you pull the company out of loses. In other words, somebody's eating, somebody's not. Corporations are built off of cheap labor. It's the closest thing to slavery that you can imagine. If you're looking at slavery as not being paid for your labor, very few people in this country are paid what they're worth. That's capitalism. It's to get the labor as cheap as possible. And nobody, even if you're making six figures, you're not getting paid anywhere close to what you're generating for the company. And as long as it operates in this manner, people are going to win, people are going to lose. And who are you looking out for in the process? I try to do the best I can to educate people to create their own avenues. So that way, that's one person who isn't taking away from the zero sum equation. We're going to have to find a way to understand how we can create and operate for ourselves. But if we're operating from a pure perspective of pure capitalism, unbridled, unchecked, unregulated, you're going to have the rich eating and the poor getting poorer. And if you got people, and politicians are going to always gravitate towards those who can put money in their pocket, back their campaigns, and keep them in office where they get their cushy jobs of a close to $200,000 a year if you're a senator, and 100 and something, 130, 140,000, something like that if you're a congressman, for sitting around playing with other people's lives with the bills that you create and the legislature that you produce. So you have to hold them accountable. And the only way that you hold them accountable is economically and financially. If you don't have an economic floor on which to stand, you have no power in which to play in the political arena. A lot of emphasis putting on voting, but voting without economic power does not produce anything. Because even if you had the power at 14% of the population, of which only 7 to 8% are literally eligible to vote, if you sit up and with that 7 to 8% and you vote somebody in power as if you really could vote someone in power that those who have a higher percentage didn't want to put in the first place to represent their interests. The problem is you have no way to force them to represent it once you put them in. That's like hiring somebody and saying, after I hire you, you can do pretty much whatever you want to do. If you don't have the power to disrupt what you created by way of your vote can actually be a hindrance to you. Because for 50 years, we've been voting and we've made no progress because we don't understand the power of the vote. We don't understand the value of the vote. We think that because we fought hard and it's something that's valuable, we have to spend it. That's one of the problems we have with money. We think because it's valuable, we have to spend it. That the only way that we can realize the value of our money is to spend it. The only way we realize the value of our vote is to spend it. The truth of the matter is, the way that you maintain the value is that you become very discretional about how you spend it. You don't spend your money on everything. You change your mindset from being a consumer to being an investor. Something has to make sense to you, and it has to have a long-term benefit before you spend money on it. Same thing with your vote. It can't be a good feeling that you're getting from your vote, and that's pretty much it. The person you wanted got in, but what are they doing for you after they get in? How is that going to look for you 2 years, 3 years down the line? Are they advancing your interest? If they're not, then you spent your vote on the wrong thing. You gave away value trying to prove your value. The thing is, you've got to understand how things work, and that's something we really struggle with. And so what am I saying? I'm saying that we've got to do a better job. Look, I'm about to step out for here. Kamala Harris couldn't last because she couldn't get past her past. Period. We're at a point in time where we're pulling receipts, and these receipts are going viral, and people are learning who these people really are. We're able now to pull your voting record. We're able now to look and see how you dealt with us in years past on specific issues. So we know where you stand. You can't simply tell us, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I feel. This is what no, you're going to have to say, okay, if this is how you feel now, what changed since this? And where can we see the consistency of this new idea of this new person you've become? And if you can't produce that, if you can't show that this isn't the person that did that, that there was something that changed and there's a pattern that you can look at to see that it's changed, then we're going to say you're the same person. You're just running game again. And that's what happened. All skin folk ain't kin folk. It's that simple. Look, once again, I'm going to I thank you for stopping by. I'm about to get out of here. Thanks once again. Don't forget, support the work that we're doing. You guys have an unbelievable day. I'm out.
From a conceptual perspective, people talk about it as success. All of the elements they think, intelligence, expertise,
what other doors could they close?
Hey, how much am I willing to give up and are not committed to the struggle, acquiescing to the struggle? They're committed